The flyer you see here is the one we used also to promote today's session. It talks a little bit about the objectives of what is it that we hope to talk about today. What is the wearing scientific goggles approach? Why it matters? Why is it important? And more especially what we will cover on today's webinar. It is absolutely not going to cover everything you need to know about it, but it's an introduction, we believe, to this way of thinking, thinking about the experience and the work that you already do on your daily basis and how you can profit even further from it, but not only you, also the scientific community and the communities that you work with. How can we make sure that all of this work, it's not just lost on the day-to-day, but it's rather also analyzed in a more systematic way so that we learn how to learn and learn how to better document what we do, because I know all of you do a lot. So this is also a way to honor that work already. We are 3 minutes in. I would suggest we start because people will continue joining as we speak. We are also recording it. This will be made available on our website, on our YouTube channel. As we said, it's a continuous conversation that we hope to have in the light of this project, but also not only. It is a method that can really be applied for all of the work that you do, all of the sort of practitioner-led work that you do. We will hear today from Dr. Lamalani Ngwenya and Dr. Anati Makamani. I will introduce them a little bit further. We will also hear from the countries that are implementing the agroecology project we mentioned in the beginning, and what is their experience, because they have already been working with this method, and they can tell you also how is it that they see the benefits of it and what they have learned from it. And now I would like to give our GFRAS Executive Secretary, Dr. Carl Lassen, just a few minutes to talk about what the importance of what we're doing here, why we decided to organize this webinar. You know, as almost as lights are going out, we know a lot of people are going to their breaks for the end of the year. But why did we want to end this year with this particular message? Why we believe it's important, and what is the work that GFRAS is doing in promoting this method, but also ensuring the documentation of practices on the ground globally. So Carl, I would like to give the word to you, so you can talk a little bit about that, and then we will proceed with our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid, and welcome everybody from my side also. I do not have a presentation PowerPoint because there will be a lot of presentations, so I'll just speak a little bit introducing. So why is this wearing scientific goggles interesting for the extension community and for the broader scientific community? As we see it, there are basically two different communities working with extension. There is the sort of academic scientific community working, looking at extension a little bit from the outside, seeing, making experiment, making surveys, trying to understand what is happening. And they are very often publishing in scientific papers about extension. They are not doing extension, they are looking at extension and reflecting and writing about extension. So that's one community. Then there's the other community, which is all the practitioners who do extension on a daily basis, who do advisory service, who are in the field, who are innovating and learning and reflecting every day. And all the things that they are doing is very often not captured by the scientific community, not shared broader with the extension community. And the idea behind the scientific goggles is to say, how can we help extension officers look at what they're doing, not only just implementing, but also looking a little bit at it at a meta plan, saying, reflecting on what am I doing? What are the learning that I am doing here? What is relevant from my daily practice for the broader community? If I put on my scientific goggles and look at my daily work, how can that inspire, influence, help others in doing what they are doing? So the richness of practitioners is very often lost. If it exists anything, if it's a project-related activity, it's always in the grey literature. It's never out in the public literature. So the whole idea behind this is to assist and equip the field implementers with the courage and the knowledge on how do I translate my daily experience? How do I do experience capitalization, not only for a reporting, but also for sharing with the broader international community, either as a direct scientific paper, as a policy paper, as a good practice note, whatever it can be. But how do I actually take my everyday learning and make that into something that can be shared with the broader extension and academic community? So that is really in a nutshell what we are trying to do. We have a lot of we have a lot of practitioners, a lot of skills. How do we get that captured and shared for the benefit of the whole extension community and the whole global agricultural community? And as we say in GFRAS, if the whole idea of transformation in the food system, it can't happen, it won't happen if not the extension and advisory system is an integral part of it, because all the big ideas that comes in international meetings, they need to be translated into behavioral changes at farm level. How do we do this? That is a difficult thing to do, but we have a lot of people out there who's doing it on a daily basis, and we are not capturing their learning, we are not capturing their experience, and we have to do that much more rigid than we have done before. Otherwise, we won't have the understanding of how do you translate academic ideas into practical things in many different settings, in many different environments. And that richness we need to capture. And that is the scientific goggles in a nutshell. So I look very much forward to this webinar, and I look very much forward to the thinking behind it, presented by Dr. Khalami and by Anati Makaname. And I also want to hear about the excitement this has spurred on the field, because, as I say, a lot of people have a small professor in their stomach. They have been through academia. They've ended up being practitioners, but actually going back to this way of thinking scientifically, of capturing what you know, it's inspiring and really give people sort of a new lens on their daily work and what they can achieve, not only in the field, but also as part of a knowledge pool in their country and in the broader community. So thank you very much for arranging this webinar, and we are looking forward to the coming 2 hours. Back to you, Ingrid. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. It's exactly what you said. I mean, I just wanted to remind everyone what is the structure that awaits us today. I mean, we plan to meet for around 90 minutes. And then in the first part of the session, we are going to hear in more detail about the wearing scientific goggles approach. It's Professor Dr. Lamin Guenia who is going to talk to us about that. This will last for around 25 minutes. Then we will look at the experiences from the field. As she mentions, the dopamine effect. What is it that people feel when they actually see this taking shape in the work that they do? We are going to hear from people who are doing this work in the 4 countries from the AERAS project. But we can also pull in, and this is just a disclaimer. As I see the names and I recognize the people, we can also call you in to give your contributions to make this very interactive and to make this session productive for all of us. And then we will zoom in the contribution of Dr. Anati Makamani, talking about how is it that academic institutions can support this process. So I also see and recognize names here that are coming from institutions, and you can also think about about your role. What is it that you can do to ensure that the people that you are, training, representing, and supporting can actually really engage in this process in a way that will be productive for everyone. So this is our structure for today. The Q&A will be, built into all of these sessions. So there will be space and opportunities for all of you to ask your questions or comments. We invite you to use either the chat, or as we are not a very big group, you can also speak and then, make your interventions and talk, just ensuring that we keep in line or keep in control of the time, and that we can cover all of these three things. That being said, I won't keep you further and any longer from Professor Dr. Lamy, who is a South African-born global citizen, as she says. She is the head of research chair of the Communications for Innovation at the University of Free State, but that is only one of many hats in her head store. I won't be able to list all of them. She's a poet, she's an author. She has a lot of experience in international, in the international ground with agriculture, with education, with health, community development. So all of this comes together into curating and creating also this content, and making sure she always knows how to bring out the best in people, that I've seen firsthand in many, many spaces. So I would like to give the floor to her now so that she can lead us through this session. Thank you, Lami.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ingrid. And I want to thank, Carl, Dr. Carl Lassen, the Executive Director of GFRAS, for awarding us, this space, to even talk about these wearing scientific goggles. So this wearing scientific goggles is a very, very, very personal issue. And I prepared a little bit a PowerPoint presentation, but I want us to engage. And one thing that I find humbling is that the idea itself, sometimes when you sell an idea, it takes forever for people to actually take it up. But GFRAS is one of those organizations when I sold the idea and the uptake was instant. Not only instant, and I think it's very important for me to indicate that, Dr. Carl Lassen here had to put in a lot of resources, from the project that we will be sharing about, to make sure that, this idea happens. So you don't see that in many cases, So I would like to say thank you for that we can actually test, this. The uptake was just instant. He said a lot about what inspired, this, but I've prepared a little bit, some few slides. Ingrid, you tell me if you can see the slides. Here we
Yes.
go. Yes. So I'll just go quickly summarizing some of the things that, Dr. Carl has indicated, but also, let me see, continue to share. Yes, just to show a little bit, also the idea behind this and why we are here. So in my presentation, I talk about one shift, many ripples. So wearing scientific goggles, it's about shifting the identity and shifting how we see our day-to-day work. And with that one shift, we see a lot of many ripples. I'll go there quickly. Let me say, okay. So that picture there, thanks to my 16-year-old, because when I was talking about this wearing scientific goggles, and she drew me, with the scientific goggles there, and then it becomes, a trademark of what we are doing here. So very quick, I'll just take you through a personal story, a personal journey that brought, to this. When Ingrid was introducing me, she mentioned the multiple hats that I wear. I come from academia, but also I've been in practice. So just about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I went back into academia with this position that she mentioned, head of research chair in communication for innovation at the University of Free State. That research chair on its own, it's a research chair, which means it's about doing research. Okay, so when that happened, I asked myself, I'm going to head this department or this research chair. I will be expected, to do research and all that. Then I kept on asking myself, what kind of research should we drive them? Should it be research about food security? Is it gender? Is it social science and all that? As I was thinking about that, then I realized that the practice where we come from, the extension, the people that I have met, they're already doing a lot of work in the different spaces. However, like what Dr. Carl had indicated, on one hand we have academics, on the other hand we have practice. Both worlds are generating knowledge in one way or another. Academics, it's about peer review journals, it's about scientific writing, it's about that and all that. On the other hand, practice, it's about experimenting. They are doing real life challenges and all that. But both worlds are generating knowledge. Then I found myself in that intersection wearing these two hats. How then can we bridge the gap between these two worlds so that they can actually coexist? So that is where the birth of the scientific goggles came about. But slightly different a little bit, and what Carl has indicated. I'll just go very quick to look at some of these things. So it's really a mind shift. And we started testing a little bit, and the dopamine effect is very strong, and we will come a little bit to that. Oh, practice, people are solving, complex. They are holding, experiential learning. Everything is sitting in the heads of the people who are experimenting and actually doing all these things. We write reports, we collect data, and every day we're doing those things, but it's never documented in the manner that it gives us, that scientific, product that we are looking for. Here, some key challenges that we want to address, and I'm sure some of you can actually relate to that. Surely the first challenge is that, practitioners are solving real life challenges. Okay, we sit with tacit knowledge. When I was looking at the list there, I will see Mem Mantombi there. She's from South Africa, and I'm going to use her as an example. She used to be head of SASAI, the South African Society for Agricultural Extension. She's one of the people who led the whole process of South Africa looking at extension as science, right? She led, that innovation where they are bringing, extension, the CPD point and everything. Everything is sitting in a head. That process has never been documented in any way that actually bring, these guys. So these are the kind of, examples that we are looking at. I've seen Beatrice there, the country fora. You are innovating. There are a lot of things that, people are doing. But that process has never been documented. That, it brings, new ideas into the whole academic, discourse. Surely, the other challenge that we are looking at here is the theory-practice divide. As I've indicated, academics, we do science in a different way, while practice are doing science in a different way. How then do we reconcile, these two things? In most cases, when a practitioner go to a university to do masters or to do a PhD, chances are they will select a different topic altogether that has nothing to do with their day-to-day job. So you go and study, and you create, you get, a different topic. But your day-to-day job, where you are innovating and you are sitting in with data, you don't look at that. In most cases, people will also go and even go to areas where they have to get permission to get access to data. But you're leaving the data that you are generating on day-to-day job. So how then can we reconcile that? How can we encourage practitioners to look at their day-to-day job, to look at all the data that they are generating in real life and package it in the manner that it can actually, bring, these two worlds together. Another challenge that we are looking at, which you can relate, is the whole issue of, compliance and, and learning. In most cases, whether it's in government, whether it's with donor projects and all that, we write reports for compliance. We want to comply with the donor. That report, good, it goes to the donor, or maybe it goes to whoever we are reporting to. But in most cases, how those reports are generated, it leaves out a lot of process knowledge. All the innovations that have been generated within that context doesn't make it into the donor report. It doesn't make it into the reports that, we are producing for, it could be government or annual performance plan and all that. What happens to that knowledge and innovation that doesn't make it into the report? So these are some of the innovations that we want to bring to say, okay, yes, we can have the report that goes to the donor. We can have a report that goes to our annual performance plan. But the innovation that led to that report, we do not lose it. How then can we inspire the practitioners to begin to document, those insights that will never make it into the report? Another one, we hear a lot about the whole issue of scaling innovations, and when they talk about the value of death. The idea of the value of death is that, scientists will sit there, right, maybe come up with innovations, and then you have extensionists who have to transfer, these innovations to the farmers. And in between that translation, something happened. So the innovation sits in the shelf, it doesn't go to where the farmers are. But we have seen as extensionists that are working in the field, when you practice and you innovate with farmers on the ground, there is no value of death because innovation is happening where the farmers are. And this is what we have been doing as extensionists. In the project that we are showcasing today, we have seen in the past two years where already the uptake of innovations is instant because it's happening already with the farmers. But that knowledge and the innovation doesn't get documented because there are some innovations that are somewhere in the value of death. So how then can we as extensionists bridge that gap by beginning to document and not wait for somebody to come and document for us? So another challenge that we are looking at it's I think we have spoken a little bit here about how knowledge gets generated. We have seen many a times where researchers will go to the field to do action research or to do participatory research. And in the field, innovations are taking place. When the report comes or when those scientific papers come, the researcher who went to the field to do this action research and participate, they become the first authors. They write the report and they acknowledge the extensionists and the farmers on the ground. The question is, how then can we change that? By equipping the extension officers and the farmers on the ground to be the ones who are writing about their stories and all that, so that when those publication comes, it's not only the scientists that come from academic institution or elsewhere to take the first authorship, but really have a way in which we can actually co-author together. In this way, academic institutions support the practitioners by providing tools and the language that is required to document these things scientifically without taking the authorship, but really equipping the practitioners themselves to be the first authors and all that. Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about this visibility of knowledge because we know there is a lot that is happening in the field, like what Dr. Carl is saying. Every practitioner that we know, they have a little professor in them. We have seen people who are being called professors and doctors in the field, but they are not. Why? Because of the level of knowledge and experiences that they have. So this is what this wearing scientific goggles is all about. Yes, so in the field, things remain untapped, undocumented, analyzed and shared and all that. Here I quoted, as if I knew that Dr. Carl will always say, we have a little professor in them. So how do we support this process of getting that little professor to really be in the forefront of, documentation and really, getting, that credit as it's required. Okay, so with these wearing scientific goggles, definitely, we are already wearing our own scientific goggles in the academic institution by developing this methodology. So we take this as like how in business people will do it. In business, they develop a product. A product development, they do a little bit testing here, and at the end of the day, you have this product that happens through a rigorous process. So we are following the same methodology, but now we are developing a much more intangible product. It's an institutional product, which is wearing scientific goggles. Definitely, we had to come with, some hypotheses, that we want to test. So one of the hypotheses that we are looking at is that if you give practitioners the scientific goggles to begin to look at their work scientifically, we see a dopamine effect that comes. And that we have seen already in some countries like Uganda, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Madagascar, who are part of the GFRAS, project. We see the dopamine effect, where people begin to see things. They go beyond the project and really bring, new energy because they will be recognized for documenting. Secondly, we see new knowledge that is coming in this project already beyond the project, the report that will go to the donor. We have seen already different people, and they will share themselves, where they begin to say, oh no, we can also write about this story. And that story will not make it into the donor report, but it is interesting. So we see a lot of knowledge that is actually coming up from the same project. We say when practitioners are wearing scientific goggles, they become better implementers. What do we mean by that? Because once you wear scientific goggles, you look at your work from a research point of view, you start to ask different questions. You start, to look at, different patterns that you didn't see before, and you become a better implementer. We have seen it, myself and Dr. Makamani, who are establishing this research share. How we do things is very different because we are saying we want to document every little thing that we are doing from a scientific point of view. Last but not least, once you recognize new patterns and all that, there will be new theories that gets generated. And I think for me, this part excites me a lot. Dr. Carl indicated that, you do have academics who study extension processes and all that. There are already theories around how extension work and things like that and whatnot. But when you go to practice, things happen in a different way, whether it's project management and all that, no? And unless we get practitioners themselves to document how they do it and come up with new theories based on practice, the theories that gets generated in academia will be recycled. I can tell you now that when you read academic papers about extension, I can tell you extension is seen from the position of lack. It's told, the story of extension is told from governments that are dysfunctional, systems that are not working, extensionists that have low morale and all that. This is what is dominant in the academic publications. But on the ground, we see country forums that are motivated. We see, for example, in the example of South Africa, where government is putting money into extension. We see the like of GFRAS and all that, where the story in the field, it's so different. And unless the practitioners themselves tell that story, the story that is told by someone else will always be limited. We hear that, extension is limited and all because the practitioners are not the ones who are telling the story. And how then do we equip the practitioners to tell the story in the manner that we see it, but the story become, credible, and these new theories come up. So this is really where we are trying to do with this now. Methodologically, definitely it's about participatory research, action-oriented, systems thinking, but also appreciative inquiry. And I want to emphasize here the issue of appreciative inquiry. In most cases, when we do studies, we look for what doesn't work. What are the challenges and all that? But appreciative inquiry also start as a starting point. What works? What are the things that we can scale? I can tell you that you cannot scale something that doesn't work, right? But if you want to take, these beautiful things that, practitioners are doing, you take it to scale, you can start from the appreciative inquiry. We want to understand what works, and we do that intentionally. We want to understand that what works so that we can actually take it to scale. Because traditionally, when we do research, we go and look at the things that do not work, and we come up with all the challenges that do not work. You cannot take that to scale. So it is a methodological shift where we're looking at these things. As I'm closing, we are testing this model in different contexts, ongoing donor projects, like now with GFRAS, where we have this agroecology project, and we just went there and we test, oh my God, the dopamine effect, and they will share. A country like Uganda, they even have like a WhatsApp group where there are about 50 people from the same project, who each one of them want to write a specific story and things like that. And Costa Rica, Ecuador, and Madagascar as well, we see the same level of dopamine, and they will share by themselves. We're going to test this in government institution, because we know that government extension, as it's there in the open, it's dysfunctional. But we have seen governments that are doing wonderful things about extension, and that story never gets documented. And who is better positioned to document that is the practitioners themselves. We're going to test this in farmer organizations as well, individual academic institutions as well, regional networks, and also private sector. And we are so encouraged to see how the uptake of this model it is going on. Like I said, the dopamine effect is more like a hammer effect. Those who have put their scientific goggles, they don't see their work in the same way anymore. Lastly, I think what is very, very crucial, it's not us as academic institutions documenting and acknowledge practitioners, but it's about having that co-authorship. We have to have these co-authorships where practitioners get the authorship as they require. We are also mindful that not everyone should become a scientist, but we know that in the practice, people are innovators. And how then do we bridge this gap together? And lastly, why does this matter? This matters not only for scientific papers. Of course, now that I have this new position as the head of research chair, definitely I need scientific papers. But it's not about the scientific papers. It's about giving practitioners the tools and the language to validate their experiences. It's about giving practitioners the space to claim that lived experiences as valuable knowledge of scientific value. It's also about giving practitioners, that pathway for personal growth. It's also about building that inclusive, system of knowledge flow between academics and practice. And lastly, it's about shifting the culture from output delivery to learning and influence, and where we can co-generate, these things together. These are really, really my last slides. We know here we talk about knowledge product of scientific value. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that every knowledge product of scientific value has to result in a peer-reviewed paper. What makes it, or what gives it, that scientific value is not the format of how it is produced, but is the rigor within which, it is actually produced. So what makes it scientific? It's not the format as I'm indicating, no, but it is the scientific rigor, the validation, all the things that go in behind which the wearing scientific goggles aims to support. Okay, so the rigor is about the logic in how you document, how you observe, how you look at the patterns, how you reflect, how you draw insights, but also how we validate, this information so that it's more credible. Yeah. So here, what we will be producing within, this initiative, definitely there will be academic, papers for those who want to do that, but it could be practice-based, type of, knowledge product. It could be policy brief. It could be position papers. It could also be documents, that we use for communicative and all that and stuff. But what binds it together is the process in which we document this thing. If you will come to say, oh, this project has had impact in the lives of farmers, it remains a story until we can, have, that evidence that, bring that impact and all that. Sure. There we go. So what we are saying, it's one shift, many ripples. So I am saying to our community here, scientific value lives where inquiry, reflection, and validation meet. So in the nutshell, this is what, this whole wearing scientific goggles, it's all about. It's about giving practitioners that scientific lens to begin to see their work with a scientific eye. And the question is, what happens then? What kind of new knowledge products come in, and how do we see, this dopamine effect, coming up? Ingrid, I'm going to stop there. You can feel the dopamine already in me. I could talk forever, with this, because the dopamine already is there. But I'm going to stop here for now. We can take questions, and we also see what inspire people to be part of this, initiative, especially those who have already worn their own scientific goggles. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you very much. Let me right on time. I mean, we started this session at 2:15, so it took exactly the 25 minutes. But as you said, we are also giving the room for people to ask questions if they want. You can do that by using the chat. I see it is working, so people have also, I also see that some people have introduced themselves or made greetings. So thanks to everyone once again who is here, who took the time for this. It is not going to be the only space in which we talk about it, but it's a start into having this conversation as a group, as a community. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them here or to speak. What we can also do is to go on with the next, the next session, which will bring about already the other voices from people who are in this room. So you can also collaborate in that space. As I mentioned, we will talk about experiences from the field. We will bring people who have been working in one of these 4 countries that we have mentioned, but also beyond. And how is it that they are feeling this dopamine effect? I see that it comes in the chat already. I saw that Fola is here from Madagascar. I saw that Ruth and Beatrice from Uganda here. I saw that Jaime just came in also from Latin America. So I will give you, Halami, the lead for this session as to who you want to invite and what you want to pick out from each one of them. But we definitely have a lot of contributors who can make this an interesting and very active bit of today's session.
Okay. Thank you so much, colleagues. Like we said, that we are testing this model in different contexts, and our colleagues, from the different countries, yeah, I think, I've seen, yes, I think I've seen Jamie, yeah, from Latin America. Yes, Jamie is there. We have seen, Beatrice, Madam Beatrice. We have seen Vola, Ruth. Yeah, so we just start, with the people that are already implementing these. We will start, with Beatrice. Thank you so much, Vola. May you please, take the stage as well, Jaime. May you please, take the stage as well. Just, for you to introduce yourselves briefly and how these wearing scientific goggles have been introduced and what you are doing in your countries. Let me start, with Madam, Beatrice. You just tell us a little bit who you are with the introductions, and Vola will also introduce herself, and then Jaime will introduce, himself. I'm not sure if I'm missing, other people from the other, countries that are that are participating. Beatrice, very briefly. Oh, Laura is
It's just joining us now, so
We'll
perfect.
give
Then
her
we
some
have
time.
we are
Yes,
covered all of the 4 countries. We
yes.
can go like that.
Beatrice from Uganda, just a quick, introduction. You are on mute.
Beatrice, you're still on mute?
You're on mute, Beatrice.
Oh, sorry,
Yes.
sorry. I was saying that good evening or good afternoon, wherever you are. I am Beatrice Luzove. I am the CEO of the Uganda Forum for Agriculture Advisory Services, and which is one of the country for which is implementing the GPSAEP. You said we just introduce ourselves.
Yeah, you just do the introduction for now. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to Madagascar. Vola. You're on mute as well.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Fula Gobson. I'm the national coordinator of AERAS GPSAEP in Madagascar. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's all fly to Latin America. We will start with Jaime.
Hello, everybody. Good morning here in this part of the world. I'm sorry to be a little late, but I'm here. I'm the project coordinator in Ecuador. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will come back to you. Laura, I've seen Laura as well. Laura, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. Laura Ramirez from Costa Rica, the national coordinator of the country fora, as well as the AERAS project. Thank you.
And I have seen also our partner there, where I think Access Agriculture. I think I have seen Access Agriculture. Blessing. I think I have seen Blessing. Okay, maybe we'll come back, to Blessing. So maybe let's take, in that order, very brief, like a few minutes just for you to indicate how you are applying, this wearing scientific goggle, and how do we see the dopamine already that is taking place, in the countries, and what are the possible knowledge products that you will be working on beyond the project document, the report that goes to the donor. Let me start. I will start with Laura. I can see already you are nodding. Yeah, so let's start, with Laura. How do you see this, and what is happening in your country?
Okay, in our national workshop, we talk a lot about this item, and I think we have or more or less 5 different articles we can write in different in different subjects. But we also have others knowledge products which goes to farmers. Then it's different. We have some products that goes to farmers and others that goes to scientifics and researchers and also station agents. Then in articles, I think we have about 5 about different methodologies we built in the project itself, and also about our baseline, how is the agroecological movement in Costa Rica also, and some practices. We have, we're trying to have some innovations and then just to publish those different innovations. And then I think we were going to work some different kind of knowledge products. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So let's stay in Latin America. And Jaime, what are some of these dopamine and new knowledge products that you are working on in addition to the project sent to deliver?
Thank you very much, Mami. In Ecuador, there are happening interesting things. We have include 2 doctorate and master degrees people that they are part of the universities that are working with us, and they have done some research for their master and doctoral degrees, and they have use and take information that we, as a project, we have provided, and they are doing their thesis. So this is very interesting. We have our major consultant that helped us with the baseline. He developed a book. He is already doing a publication, and one of the chapters is regarding to AERAS methodology. So this is very interesting as well. And people from the Agricultural Research Institute, they have already published at least 3 or 4 publications regarding to some technical aspects regarding to how to deal with pests in potato, according to what we have done with our project. So there are a few other things that maybe I can share later about what we are doing here in Ecuador.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Madagascar. In Madagascar, what were some of this ripple effect that we are actually seeing with these wearing scientific goggles in Madagascar?
Yes, thank you, Lamit, to giving me the flow. So what we are doing now, so we try to capitalize the impact or effect of the project. So beyond the indicators, so we are about to monitor many figures, indicators of the project. So beyond of that, we try to see the effect and impact of the project. So how do we do that? So we try to exploit, to make some analysis of data that we are collecting. For that, we have some tools. We work with the mill officer, interns who are doing their masters. We try also to collect data from everyone, partner implementers from the project. And after that, after analysis, you can see that we can have some feedback from these data. Means we can see what can be the decision can we take coming from these figures. So, for example, we made analysis on adoption of agroecology technology, how we measure the knowledge, attitude, and practices from RAS facilitators. Maybe also how people today adopt innovation. So all of those are analyzed without taking count of the indicators, but beyond what is the impact. And like what, it gives motives to all the stakeholder beneficiaries on how can they improve their action activities on field. So it's really important for them to have feedback from the difficult analysis. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So let's go to Uganda. How is the dopamine working in Uganda, Beatrice?
Oh, thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. You just need to adjust your video. We only see you from here. Here we go. Yes.
Okay, so you are saying me now?
Yes.
Talking about the dopamine experience, when in Uganda, actually, I think maybe for us the thing is that we are mainly practitioners and practitioners in the field, mainly in the field under the GPSIOP, that is the RAS, or the frontline extension workers and the master trainers who are actually coming up to write. So we had actually, for us, when we heard about this first, we had a sensitization. We first had to sensitize and make sure that the master trainers in 5 districts get to understand this. We've also had a national workshop where we called people to again explain, and Dr. Lamy actually came in online to, and then we went back to the field to now for the master trainers and all of us to explain to the team, because being practitioners, we need to really understand this and then buy in or be really interested when we have understood. And from this, now we actually told people, those who are interested, and we're very, very specific. We said it's not something which is going to be taken on them, that, you're not performer or whatever, for you to be able to. So we told people to submit actually their topics raw in their raw form. And we got that currently now we have 36 topics submitted. 14 of them are academic / research based, 16 case stories, 1 position paper, and 5 which are communicative, things like blogs and all that. And so what I've so far now had over this, I've had a meeting with Dr. Lamy to discuss all through this. And Dr. Lamy promised that is developing a practical guide for the practitioners to be able to, to refine what they have submitted, and also be able to give us. She said she wants to understand what is the problem for people. The problem should come from us, the practitioners. And then she said she'll give us a format for the different forms of, if it's a research paper, if it is a case story, if it is all that. And then where the stage where we are is that the practitioners are developing short abstracts on their topics, okay, what they want to write about, what they think is the problem. But I can say that this is something, when we had the workshops in 5 districts or 5 locations, people are saying, yes, this is what we want. This is what some people have actually said they had never tried to write, but it was not really moving anywhere. And we talked about also in these workshops, we said we had a question of what would motivate you as a practitioner to write. And they actually gave us a lot of, thinking other thing, can we have the employers recognize this? One I think was from the government, and say, if this can be put in the government system, that to be able to be promoted, you have to at least to have written and shared your experience. So people are really eager about this, and they are very, very eager. You can see that actually, even when you see on the list of the people who are present, I think Uganda is the one which has the biggest number here. I had counted 14. I don't know that they're still there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I think that's where we have time just to give you a glimpse of what the people are actually doing, to take up, these wearing scientific goggles. Ingrid, I think I will take it back to you. I see there were a lot of, charts where people are saying, yes, we have, the dopamine already and all that. And definitely, because this is something that we are starting. So we will be working together. That is why I have my colleague here, Dr. Anati, who will make a presentation. So we are building this plane as we are, we are flying this plane as we are building it, so that we know what are the skills that practitioners need, what kind of support, and then the academics need to be supporting that process. And here, Ingrid, over to you.
Thank you, Lami. There are a few more actually questions as well in the chat. I actually also want to thank all of you who contributed in the chat, but also, of course, who are sharing their experiences from the country. Also, Beatrice, because that was my question that Beatrice answered already without me asking, which was a bit on the motivation and the incentives for people to do this work and to drive, and also to work differently in changing the way they think about their work. But now here I see on the chat, there's a question from Olet Calvin asking, how can we link the wearing scientific goggles approach, let's say, with the usual academic research that is done? What are some of the steps, if any, that can be used in this to support practitioners in coming up with, let's say, a well understood and clear write-up about their topic of interest concerning what they're doing in the field? So this is a question. And there is also another question also about this interlinkages, let's say, about practitioners and academics, that is being asked, what is happening in this link, in this dialectic here? It's a question from Meadat Poya from Bu Alicina University. So people are very much interested both in these linkages, what happens, and how can we also support them, in the usual academic or making this transition from the usual academic research, or coming up with, let's say, clear concepts about the work that they can do.
Okay, so maybe before I respond to that, shall we wait until, Dr. Anati comes in? So myself currently and Dr. Anati are coming from the academic, institution, but we are trying to create, these linkages. So some of the things that we needed to change also from the academic point of view. I can tell you now that we in our research chair, we also will be promoting PhD and master's students. And we are encouraging our PhD students, when the ones that are coming, when they think of a research topic, we ask them, does that topic has something to do with your day-to-day job? And in most cases, the answer is no. So somebody leave their day-to-day job where they are sitting on data, they choose a different topic, and they still have to go and, get data. And so for me, I think these are some of the things that low-hanging fruits that academic institutions can already come. If somebody comes from practice and they choose a research topic, ask them, does this have something to do with what we are doing? If the answer is no, then how do we encourage them to actually look at their day-to-day job and really look at some research topics around it? So that is one way in which we can support. When my colleague comes in here, so for example, Uganda, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and all the topics that they came up with, then we have to look at academically, what does that mean? Then, academically, there is ethical clearance. How then do we support, these things? So these are some of the things that we are actually trying to actually bring that. Those who want to write, peer review journal academically, what is it that will make, this peer review paper meet, the academic standards? So this is where we are actually coming in. And when they write, it's not going to be my name. That is the first author, which we are doing in academics now. We go and we write, and then we take the first authorship. So let's also begin to shift. Let's rather, if it's not my idea, even if I'm the one who's perfecting the skill of writing scientifically, I cannot take that and make it me first author. So these are small things that we can do to meet, practitioners where they are. But anyway, let me stop there. And I think to give a bit of space to my colleague, who will also look from the academic point of view, what are some of the things that needs to be put in place in order to bridge, these gaps. Okay.
Thank you, Lami. I will then pass on the floor to Dr. Anathi Makamani, who will, do the last block of today's intervention. As I mentioned, she's going to talk about how academic institutions can support this process. I would just like to take a minute to introduce Dr. Anathi Makamani, who holds a PhD in sustainable agriculture from the University of the Free State, and has a background in agricultural economics, extension, rural development, and policy analysis, bringing very much this multidisciplinary approach on how to address key challenges in the agricultural section. Her current research is focusing on climate change adaptation and resilience among smallholder farmers, and has a particular emphasis on the role of extension services in fostering sustainable agriculture practices. But her broader research goes much beyond that. And we would really like to, to bring her in, as we mentioned, to talk about how these academic institutions can support this process. She also works closely with the chair and ensuring that the work and the activities that are done, they actually have a direct impact on smallholder farmers. And how can we make sure that this knowledge is not lost? So thank you, Dr. Anathi Makamani, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ingrid, for having me, and to GFRAS. I'd like to acknowledge that, and all the colleagues that are actually joining us at this time of the year. Just before I start, I'd also just like to say I do have the dopamine effect. I've seen it creeping in other parts of my career as well. I mean, of course, I'm an academic, but I am also a practitioner in my teaching as well as in my supervision work. And I've started wearing my scientific goggles there just to see what is working and what is not working, and try to approach it, in a scientific manner. So yes, my presentation will be looking at how universities can support practitioner-led writing. And colleagues, I would like to be a little bit biased today to the South African context, because I am bringing a bit of practical, solutions, into the topic that we have at hand. So yes, why does this matter? It's been highlighted in the introduction by Dr. Karl. Lami also spoke about it. When it comes to universities, especially where we are or where I work, all the potential of agricultural practitioners, or just practitioners in general, is, very untapped. We do not look into it, or even our systems sometimes are not even designed, to recognize or to even support it. We know that all the information that we have about farmers, whether it has to do about farmer behavior, whether it is about climate change, the research that I do, whether it's about agroecology, with the projects that is being done in the different provinces, all of that, information lies within the extension officers or practitioners. It lies within the project, organizers or officers or coordinators. Yes, and practitioner knowledge, very abundant. The evidence, it still remains scarce, and universities, we also do recognize them as being key bridges. What I have here is to firstly acknowledge that there is definitely challenges that practitioners are going to face. Firstly, you will always hear that there is a fear of academic language, and there is a fear that comes with the review process, or even with the journals as well. Sometimes you will hear practitioners saying, I know what I'm doing, but I just don't know how to write it academically. And you can even see it with the picture here. They will say, okay, let me do it. I can publish. Then you say, okay, then in order for you to publish, you have to write. Then, the other person would rather just run away from it. But similarly, we also do recognize that there is time pressure, in most cases, it was mentioned that, we just have to deliver, our project objectives or outputs. But over and beyond, I want to emphasize that practitioners would also have, limited access to libraries. Most universities, in order for you to access the library, you need to be a registered student. Most academic online platforms, especially for journals, also require you to be, registered as a university student. Others now, for example, with Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and so on, you don't necessarily need to be a student or registered at a university. But there is also a challenge of academic mentorship, where, maybe practitioners might feel like they don't necessarily have the mentorship or even training when it comes to research methods. Similarly, institutions of higher learning or universities will also have their own challenges. And when it comes to, for example, with the work that I do, my academic reward, system prioritizes journal outputs over engagement, or individual outputs over co-production. So in this case, for example, Professor Hlami mentioned that in her position, she needs to publish. So if I wake up and I say I want to be a professor, I will need to publish, for example, 50 publications. And the best thing for me to do that is to go and get data from practitioners and do it on their behalf. And that is how the system is like. So there's no time for us to have that co-creation. There's also a little bit of a misalignment, when it comes to expectations, where with academics, we just want the rigor, we want the publications, we want the numbers, while with practitioners, they want the impact, they want the relevance, and that is what is important for them. So how do we then have, a nice link between these, and how can universities play a role? Before I tap into that, I would like to firstly introduce the use of professional associations, or having practitioners affiliating with professional bodies so that they can bridge that gap between practice as well as academia. I make a practical example here of an organization called SASAI. It was already highlighted in the beginning. That is the South African Society for Agricultural Extension. In this case, it is a professional body that connects practitioners as well as academia. Currently, when we looked at the database, and I had to go through this with the Secretariat this morning, we've got more practitioners that are registered, than academia. And the benefit that the practitioners have within the society is, one, to attend conferences and be part of the scientific community. Secondly, they also do have the opportunity to present their research, whether it is with academic presentations or with poster presentations as well. They also do have access to the journals. You will see here that there is an active journal from, from the society, and I'll speak in detail, about it. And, having this affiliation means that practitioners, or it does provide practitioners with a low barrier entry point into scholarly writing. And this is just to answer some of the questions where people were asking, okay, but how do we then get the scientific writing? Having access to professional associations does bridge that gap, and I'll show you how. So here you will see how the membership criteria works within the society, and I won't go in detail. So for example, we've got professional extension scientists. These are the people that would have a qualification of more than 4 years, might have over 3 years of experience, but we also do have membership for students as well. We also do have membership for people that might also just have a diploma, but the common interest here is on people that have interest or that have background in agricultural extension. And like I mentioned, there's more practitioners than academia. These are numbers from the previous conference that happened in July 2025, where out of over 600 people that attended the conference, 88% of those were actually practitioners, and about 12% of those were in academia. What that means is, with the program that would normally look like this at the conference. This is one of the sessions where people now start presenting their research findings. 88% of these people are actually agricultural practitioners. So whether they are extensionists or people that work in policy. And you can see that perhaps with some of their topics as well, it could be topics that are very close to the work that they are already doing. For example, here, this participant was looking into factors that affect choice of rural household participation when it comes to income diversification. What I also do have on, let me just close this. What I also do have on the right here is an agriculture extension practitioner presenting a poster presentation of their research findings. And this was based on a project that they were doing on digital technology. So she was just speaking on, the uptake and how it went. And these are results that are coming from her experience and on the ground. And perhaps you can see with her face, if we didn't know, we could actually say that she already has the dopamine effect. And then what we also see with SASAI is, because again, the question came, how do we support practitioners when it comes to the language? SASAI, and it's not just SASAI, I'm making an example here. There's quite a few organizations or professional bodies or associations that do a similar structure. Here, they will offer trainings as well as webinars and workshops to prepare the practitioners when it comes to, either their best oral presentation, how do you prepare for your poster, how do you write your article for the journal. So there's so much benefit that comes with affiliating with these organizations in order to equip you as a practitioner to ensure that you can have that scientific rigor that is required. But again, I even mentioned, I think I highlighted it when Prof was also speaking that, and it's not just with, scientific peer-reviewed papers. An example that I included here is with SASAI, they also do allow for practitioners to submit what we call success stories. So this allows for the practitioners to also do that reflect, to also do that validate, and look into the rigor of the work that they do and start documenting some of the innovations that are happening on the ground. So this is another way that the association is encouraging that practitioners can, now we know, use their scientific goggles. So in this case, you will see that they can even identify problems, they can even identify interventions as well as innovations. All of these are ways of wearing your scientific goggle. And then another example that I put in here came from a newsletter from SASAI as well. And we can see here that it was colleagues that work, it's a colleague that work in a research council and a colleague that is an agricultural extensionist writing about a battle with milkwood locust in the areas that they are working with. So in this case, we've got a practitioner working with a scientist, and we can see that there is co-creation when it came to the information or to the writing. And it leads to the next part, where what we also see with the journal, I mentioned that SASAI also does have a journal called the South African Journal for Agricultural Extension. Currently, the journal is accredited by the Department of Higher Education and Training. It is also indexed by the Scientific Electronic, I'm trying to get Library Online, as well as indexed in Scopus. It's indexed in Directory Open Access Journal. So this shows you the level that the journal is at, and it is a journal that is available for practitioners to start putting out their results as well as their work out there. This is an example of a recent volume that just came out with the two figures that I've put here. One, I've highlighted that the first author in this case is actually an agricultural practitioner from the provincial department. And he's collaborated with different, colleagues from, academic institutions. We also have another one. So there is that, availability that you would normally get if you are affiliated with a professional body. And it's not just SASAI, like I said. In South Africa, we also have another association for agricultural economists. There is on an international level one called IFARMA. It's an international food and agribusiness or management association. They all have similar structures. And this is where we just encourage that, practitioners must start affiliating so that they can be part of that network and have, access to academia and all of those resources so that they can wear or start wearing their scientific goggles. And everything that I've just said is actually summarized by SASAI, that, being part of a professional body enables you as a practitioner to gain exclusive access either to latest publications, to networking, to professional development, and so on. So all of this outside the boundaries or outside the walls of, professional bodies or professional associations, the important part again is co-authorship as a capacity building instrument. So again, to answer that question about how do you get the writing correct? How do you ensure that you are writing in a scientific manner? Another way that can be used is actually through co-authorship. And we see that this has benefits for both the practitioners as well as the scientist in this case. There's definitely going to be shared intellectual ownership. Professor Hlami highlighted this in detail, that in this case, we're not just going to get data from the practitioners and writing as first authors, but there is shared intellectual ownership. For practitioners as well, we see the benefit that they get to gain a bit of confidence as well as credibility. So, their confidence goes really high the minute they've got some co-authorship with maybe someone from a scientific background or scientific, or academic institution. They also get to have access to university resources. I mentioned in the beginning that this is a huge challenge. Sometimes they can't go to the library, but if you've got that network of someone that is within the university, you get to have access to those resources. But similarly, the colleagues at the universities also get to gain or have to get the benefit of using or doing grounded research that is very relevant when it comes to policy outputs. I've used the same picture again, and this is just to show that there is co-authorship even within SASAI, where there's people that come from different, organizations that come together. I highlighted in the beginning, it's practitioners, but you can see here, one of the authors is actually a vice dean in one of the departments within the universities. So this person, nowhere else would you have access to a dean, but because of the affiliation of, professional bodies like SASAI, you can have access and have some writing with them. And similarly, the vice dean can also be of knowledge of what is happening on the ground. Same thing happened this side. We've got a PhD student that gets to work with the director and that gets to work with a practitioner. So that co-creation is very important. And then to get to the universities. So where do universities add real value? So before I even get to this, I would love to be very honest to highlight that the real value actually lies with you being formally affiliated in some way with a university. And I want to repeat this by emphasizing that not necessarily registered with the university, but have some form of affiliation. So not a full-time study, but a little bit or a good relationship will be required in order for you to get the real value from a university. So these are some of the ways that you can do it. One, through a formal registration. I'll speak in detail on this. You can do it through a short course. Being a postgraduate student, you get to get the ethical clearance and research governance that also highlighted. And over and beyond, there's going to be some academic networks and institutional legitimacy that you will have access to. So firstly, formal registration as well as affiliation. This does not necessarily have to be through a postgraduate. You can do it through a short course. You can do it through a postgraduate degree or a program. You can even do it through research affiliation. So most universities, and I make reference to South Africa, do start taking research affiliation, affiliators. So normally this is where people will say, I'm affiliated to this university. That way you get to have access to information and even systems that would have normally been closed to practitioners. I highlighted things like library access, things like institutional email addresses. If you are affiliated or if you are registered with the university, by searching Professor Hlamingwenya, you can have her email pop up to you. You also get to have access to research support offices. Most universities will have an office that is designated to support students or academic writing. So if you need help with your methodology, with writing literature review, with presenting results, there are going to be structures that are going to support you. And over and beyond, you get to have that academic legitimacy. So formal registration as well as affiliation. Another way is through taking part in short courses. So short courses are a very easy entry point when it comes to, where universities actually add value. Here, this is where we get to have practice-based research. We normally also encourage people to do a lot of reflective writing. You might have seen if you attend a workshop or you attend a seminar, people will normally be doing a lot of writing that comes with the structure and the nature of a short course. But over and beyond, we normally encourage that people turn their field experience into publishable outputs. And I say this because of a recent, a short course that took part at the university. I've included a picture here of that has both practitioners as well as, academia. We also do have a few, the farmers that joined us, but there was a lot of reflective writing here where people needed to look at the work that they do and see how they can start, presenting that or start documenting that. So short courses, definitely. We also understand that sometimes practitioners don't necessarily have the time or they don't have the capacity to take part in a full, structured postgraduate, structured learning. So these are normally low risk, but they normally also do have high impact. Then postgraduate programs. So I've included examples of what we currently have at the University of South Africa, at the University of the Free State, a few postgraduate degrees that are well designed and cater specifically to practitioners. So these you would normally find in a lot of universities. I guess the gap here is to ensure that when we do have practitioners coming in to register for a postgraduate, to now start looking at the work that they do, like Prof highlighted, instead of coming up with topics that are completely out. I'm just going through relatively quickly. Another important part is definitely the ethics. This one is very critical. You will be getting that. We also do understand, and I want to be very correct when I say this, that most practitioners, or all practitioners rather, they already work ethically. But I want to say that it's not necessarily formally. So the benefit that the universities will bring is that ethical rigor when it comes to your research. So here you will be able to clarify things like consent, things like anonymity, things like how do you use data use, getting consent from your participants. In South Africa, we've got what we call the POPIA Act. How do you align with that? And this is very important to ensure that it protects you as the practitioner in the research that you do. It protects the farmers or, the people that you'll be collecting data from. It also protects the institutions that you will be coming from. If you say that you have gone through an ethical clearance process, you know that, you know, your work is credible and there is some responsibility that was put in there. But over and beyond, there is going to be some academic networks and institutional legitimacy that will come with it. So like I said, you will have some level of networks that you will have if you are affiliated with a university. You will have access or knowledge of conferences that are in line with the work that you do, seminars, collaborative projects as well. You know, journals, you know, I already highlighted, professional bodies. You will have access to also something that we call writing retreats or writing workshops. The university does that quite a lot, where we bring people to sit in for a few days. There will normally be a specialist that will look into your topic as well. Is it researchable? How can we help you to restructure it so that it can be in line either with the journal, or if it is a policy brief, with the policy brief, it is a blog, and so on. So you will be, you will have access to that as well. What I included here was actually just a small quote. I spoke to a colleague that started, publishing in the Sajai, and, they were just a normal practitioner. But I spoke to them about the scientific goggles. And when I mentioned it and they started to realize that, with the work that they did and them, sending it to the Society conference, presenting it as a paper, they started to feel very proud. And I can say they started to feel the dopamine effect. They feel very valued. One of the colleagues also mentioned in the comments that there will be some level of value, and not just as a practitioner, but as a knowledge contributor. And she said I can mention her. She's quite Mtunzi from the Eastern Cape. Thank you very much, colleagues, for the opportunity, and I will be taking comments as well. And questions, of course.
Thank you, Anati. Thank you very much. I mean, as we can see, it's really a topic that can go on. You certainly brought a lot of opportunities, examples, spaces. And I was thinking as you were talking that, as with any skill that we want to develop, or as with anything that we want to change, it requires the time and the practice to do it. And we know that there's also, I wanted to link to a comment by Maria Paz here on the chat, where she's talking about, in a way, this two-way need, especially when we're talking about accessibility, inclusivity, let's say in language. We know that the writing needs to be, scientific, but scientists also need to write things in a way that is accessible and inclusive, that opens the door for people to feel, to understand what is it that they are doing, so that they don't require necessarily a translator. I come from a legal background, and one of the biggest criticism we get is that these things are written in a way that the average person, even when they are very well educated, if they don't come from that background, they might not even understand what is written in a simple one piece of paper, and which barriers are those that we want to create. So I wanted to give, because we are really now, we have taken up all the time that we have allocated for this. But if there are any, I would request that we take, 3 to 5 more minutes just so we can do the closing properly. If there are any questions, maybe just to get Dr. Lamy to also give, 1 2 minute conclusion on a way forward. How is it that we see the continuation of this work? From a practical point of view, I just wanted to say also, because there were comments on the chat, we will share the presentations as well as a recording later this week with everyone who also registered and maybe was not able to attend, so that we can keep this conversation going. I see a lot of people in the chat have given also their credentials or saying which institutions and organizations that they represent, because this is really a debate. If there are questions, or if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this approach, or learning about the experiences from the University of the Free State, for instance, or in general from one of the countries, it's a network, right? So we are here to communicate and talk to each other, so the channels where to find us. Other than that, I will pass the word to Dr. Lamy, and I would like to thank all of you for all your engagement today. Our speakers, of course, thank you very much. All of you for being here, wishing you a good end of year and closing end of year for some, for others. The calendar is very mobile, but wishing you a good festive season and thank you very much for your engagement. Dr. Lamy, I'll leave the closing to you.
Yes, thank you, and thank you so much. I think we have seen, we will get your credentials. We have seen some, few professors who are coming up to say, yes, we want to promote this in our different institutions. And definitely we need, professors. I mean, like what Anati said, we need, to provide mentorship. We want to create, these, community of practice of professors and academics who value, practice and, and because it means a lot. It means that, when you do that publication, your name might not be first, but you need to have that understanding that, we are building, this network together. And we have noted, some professors there. And please, 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 when you meet practitioners there and they want to write up, ask them about what are you doing. I always say I love this profession of extension, but every time you read publication, it's about, it's dysfunctional and all that. Can we change that by writing the true value of extension? I say there is no extension. No extension, no deal. We know it, no extension, no deal. And it will take extensionists themselves to tell that story, why extension is indispensable, right? And if we cannot be the ones who are on the forefront and write about why this noble profession, it's indispensable, nobody's going to do it for us. And I think we need, academics and everybody to really work together along that. No?